Would you put actual money in an envelope, seal it up, and mail it to a company to buy something you weren't even sure they had in stock? Who on earth would do that? Well, in 1938, pretty much everybody did. Meet Mrs. Eleanor Peabody of Oglesby, Texas. It's 1938, and her farmhouse has just been wired for electricity, one of the last in the country to join the Rural Electrification Program. She has a new porcelain sink, a light hanging over the kitchen table, and a Montgomery Ward catalog full of modern marvels. On one page, she spots something she's never seen before, a graceful Miromatic electric percolator, bright spun aluminum with 3 long sculpted Art Deco rays running down the body, each one tapering gently toward the base. Elegant, but not fancy. Exactly the sort of small luxury a 1938 farmhouse kitchen would have treasured. Otis at the general store had never heard of such a thing, so Mrs. Peabody fills out the order form, tucks in a money order, and carries it down to the post office. And that tiny act, walking an envelope to the counter, sets off a chain of manual steps that would make any modern logistics manager faint. First, her envelope travels by wagon or pickup to the nearest rail depot, where it's tossed into a mailbag and loaded onto a railway post office car. Inside that car, clerks sort thousands of letters by hand as the train barrels toward Chicago. From the train, it lands in Montgomery Ward's mailroom, where clerks open envelope after envelope, sorting each order by department number. Mrs. Peabody's letter goes to the appliance warehouse. A picker walks the aisles, checks the shelf, and confirms whether a Miromatic is actually in stock. If it isn't, the order goes back to the business office where a refund is typed, stamped, and mailed, a process that could take weeks. But her percolator is in stock. It's wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine, hand-labeled, and returned to the post office to begin the long journey home. All told, if everything goes smoothly, Mrs. Peabody might see her new percolator in 4 weeks. 6 if the weather's bad. That Miromatic brews hundreds of quiet mornings in that little Texas kitchen, and over the years, it becomes part of the rhythm of family life, a quiet, everyday companion. A generation later, Mrs. Peabody's granddaughter tells stories about the shiny electric percolator that sat on the counter with that soft popping and gurgling that meant coffee was almost ready. Fast forward almost a century. Mrs. Peabody's great-great-granddaughter now lives outside Portland, Oregon, about as far away from my workshop in Houston as you can travel without leaving the country. She grew up hearing those stories, but never saw the original percolator herself. She only imagined it, the warm shine, the gentle popping and gurgling, the way light might catch on those tall, sculpted deco rays. One night she's scrolling and she stops on a mid-1930s Miromatic at Annie N's Stuff. Shiny aluminum, graceful spout, those long, sculpted deco rays she's always pictured from her mother's stories. She isn't buying an heirloom, she's just trying to bring a little remembered warmth into her kitchen. And now that old Miromatic is about to make the longest trip of its life. But the way it travels today would have astonished Mrs. Peabody. In 1938, one carrier handled every step. The long haul, the sorting, the delivery, that's why things moved so slowly. But today, the trip from Houston to the hills outside of Portland is divided between 2 systems that each do what they do best. FedEx Ground specializes in the long haul, moving packages thousands of miles quickly and efficiently. And the United States Postal Service specializes in the last mile, delivering to every single address in America, from city blocks to the quietest rural roads. Put those strengths together, and a vintage treasure can travel across the entire country in just a few days, without charging my customers a penny extra. Mrs. Peabody expected her percolator in a month, and was delighted when it arrived sooner. And today, as I pack up that very percolator for its next cross-country trip, I like to think Mrs. Peabody would get a kick out of how fast it travels now. The world has changed, the roads have changed, the shipping systems have changed, but the joy of a warm cup of coffee in a kitchen filled with stories, that's timeless.